Hi, I'm Alison from Burningsuit, and in this second video we're going to look at how we can use the Microsoft Power BI Key Influencers visual to analyse the Strictly Come Dancing data. So in my last video we were looking at using the Key Influencers visual to analyse our Strictly Come Dancing data, but we were using the default analysis, which is continuous. And what we were looking at here in the Analyse bucket is we're looking at each individual judge's scores. And we were looking to see if any of the factors in the Explain By bucket influence our judges to give a higher score. And what we also identified was the fact that some of the influencers that are found only comprise a very small percentage of the entire data set. So here, for instance, dance being street only comprises 0.41% of the data. And so by enabling counts, the analyze card of the paintbrush, we can get a better view of these different percentages that the influencers take up of our entire data set. So because our dancers only take up a very small percentage of the entire data set, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just remove them from the analysis. Essentially, each dance that the contestant performs is an outlier when we compare other factors such as age, gender, and the order in which the contestants dance. So in this video, we're going to look at another question, and that is, why don't we analyse our Strictly Come Dancing contestants by looking to see what factors influence them getting a maximum score of 10. So for this, we're going to use a different type of analysis called categorical. So I'm just going to change the analysis type now by moving to the paint roller, using my analysis card and just changing the type from continuous to categorical. And when we do that now, when we come and look at the top left here, we will see that rather than saying what influences scores to increase, we are given a drop down that allows us to choose the category that we're after. So my scores have now been put into their respective categories. And so I'm going to now choose the 10 category. And when we use categorical analysis, we get a different view of our Key Influencers visual. We get a different perspective of the analysis. So again, it's identifying much the same influences that we had in our continuous analysis. So again, we find that if gender is female, that is a key influencer. But what is different now is the way the influencer is shown, and that is now that we're looking at likelihoods of our contestants getting a perfect score of 10. So when gender is F, the likelihood of our contestants getting a perfect score of 10 is 1.5 times greater than not. So we're looking at the likelihood of our contestants getting a perfect 10. So when gender is female, the likelihood of our contestants getting a perfect 10 is 1.5 times greater. And we can see a similar thing with age 31 or less. If our age is 31 or less, it's 2.64 times more likely that we will get a 10, or our contestants will get a 10. And we've now got another influencer that we haven't seen before. This influencer here of contestants being aged 58 to 61. If our contestants fall into this age bracket, then the likelihood of these contestants getting a perfect score of 10 is 1.98 more likely. So where do these ratios come from? Why, when I'm age 31 or less, is it 2.64 times greater? And why, when I'm aged 58 to 61, is it only 1.98? So for this, again, we need to look at the visual that accompanies that specific key influencer. So I'm just looking now at my influencer of age of 31 or less. And here we can see that my ages again are represented by these columns in the column chart, where my ages have been grouped according to age ranges. And we've got just the 4 age ranges. And here we're looking at contestants who fall into the age range of 31 or less. But what this visual now is showing us is the percentage of contestants within that column that score a perfect score of 10. So we can see that of my contestants 31 or less, 16.11% of those score a perfect score of 10. Now if we then compare that to the percentage of all other ages that score a 10, we can see that that's 6.09%. So if we divide 16.11% by 6.09%, that leaves us with 2.64 times. And that's where this ratio comes from. So that's why if we now go and look at this other influencer, which is age being 58 to 61, the column appears higher, even though this isn't such an influencer. And we can see why that's the case, because contestants age 58 to 61, of these contestants, 18.52% get a perfect score of 10. But if we compare that to contestants that are either younger or older, 9.38 of those get a perfect 10. So again, if we divide 18.52 by 9.38, we get the ratio here displayed in the bubble of 1.98 times. So this is where these ratios come from. So now let's go and look at what the top segments shows us when we're looking at a categorical analysis. So rather than looking at what contributes to an increased score and identifying those increased scores, now we're looking at the percentage of scores that are going to amount to a perfect 10. And here in my top segment, I can see that it's 20% of scores that will contribute to a perfect 10. So we need to go and look to see what is the makeup of this segment. So I'm going to just now click on the bubble to go and find out. So very similar to when we were looking at the continuous analysis, we can see that contestants in this segment are aged less than or equal to 31 and dance either first or last. So this is actually the same group of contestants that got the highest average score of 8.5 in our continuous analysis. But what we're now told that these contestants, or of these contestants, 20% of them get a perfect score of 10. And we can now again compare that to the average. So out of all contestants, only 9.6% get a perfect score of 10. That's quite a big difference between the average for all contestants and the average for contestants just sitting in this segment. And let's just very briefly look at our second segment. So again, this is very similar to what we got when we were looking at the continuous analysis, because this time female contestants are identified, and again, the age being less than 31, less than or equal to 31 being a key factor. But this time in this segment, the order of the dance isn't of a significant factor. So contestants falling into this segment get that their scores that are a perfect 10 constitute 15% of the entire scores. And again, we can identify that the analysis is being done on the individual scores in that scores table, because this is the number of scores that constitute contestants who are age 31 or less and that are female and that dance in the middle. So our key influencers visual, when we use it with a categorical analysis, can return very similar results, but it just gives us a different perspective, a different angle on which we can look at the analysis. So up till now, we've always been using a column to analyze our data. So both in the continuous and in the categorical analysis, we've been using the scores column. But in my next video, I'm going to show you what would happen if we start to use measures as our metric in the analysis bucket.